On behalf of Akuno Senko for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. H-O-P-E. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know? Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
All right, so welcome everyone. This is the Helping Our People Elevate study group class presented by Kono Bay every second and fourth Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time. I want to say I thank you all for attending. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I want to start with going over the conference that we had this previous Saturday. Our Moorish American Governance Birthright Nationality Claim Conference. And I'm gonna just go over a few photos. I think I have maybe 2 videos in here, just to show y'all the experience that we had. You know, it was a great event. I wish we could do it again every week. But these are a few pictures of Brother Abdullah, Quasi, El Kanan, and myself. These were some of the panelists, keynote speakers, Sister Pacola, Brother Abdullah. And as you see, it says facilitating political legitimacy through the will of the people and the consent of the people through community education and outreach and networking. And so I have that across all the pictures in my slide, but that's me, Quasi, and Abdullah. Smee, Shem, Abdullah, and Brother Ronald, and Brother Quasi. These are more of the guests and speakers from the conference, from the event. Oh, hold on, I recorded it sideways, so my apologies for the sideways view, but this is one of the speakers from the event.
At the Wells Fargo Bank, ticket suggestions from Dr. King, from the Honorable Noble Drew Ali, from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, from the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, to manage your own wealth. Take your money out of that institution and manage your own wealth. You say the other, manage your own wealth. Get every more in the house.
Manage your own wealth.
Manage your own wealth. Manage your own wealth. Power to be the people. We're here to the spirit of the Black Revolution, but that's a temporary name too. But we're ready for Tyler if he's coming to bring the mic, and I hope you enjoy your lunch. But don't forget the ADAPA, don't forget the CC, and don't forget about your Black Revolution. We're proof and evidence, Brother Tyler. We can live on polluted water. You can live on polluted air. We are the proof and evidence, but you cannot live without your Black Revolution. Assalamu alaikum. Black power. Black power. Black power. Black power. Black power. Black power. And a strong Black Revolution with a strong Black military to black that call. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Black power. Alaikum assalam.
But yeah, that was finished. But some more of the brothers from the conference. Me and Brother Ronald. Some more of the brothers from the conference. Let me see. Brother King. Oh, me and Amanda, Shem, and Abdullah.
Right.
I had to put those photos in. Also, Abdullah. Say it again. Oh. Let me see. Put these photos on the outside of that main photo that I showed in the beginning, just to show everybody to know the beauty in it.
Black history and align ourselves with his story, you immediately subjugate ourselves as a people. And we are people that are subjugated. We are people that have been captured, misinformed, and
Yeah.
don't even have our own mind.
Facts.
Don't even have our own mind. So whatever we think is not of our mind.
Not our own thoughts.
It's
Yeah.
of our oppressor and our captor's mind. Standing before you is the Honorable His Excellency Nakeem Bey, the founder of the Moorish Permanent Mission, from which I got my reclamation papers over 30 years ago. So this gathering today of the minds of the Moors in Omexum was 30 years in the making, people. This just not happened. When I met Abdullah Bey, and he came down to Atlanta,
I'm gonna go ahead and speed it up, but someone asked after the conference, so what do we do now? What are we doing from here? And so we're doing what we're already doing what needs to be done. We're having the classes, we're continuing to build, we're continuing to have the outreaches with the youth, we're continuing to build our network, we're continuing to build our study sessions, we're continuing to do our work in the communities. And so the work is never done.
No, it's
But
not.
I want to go ahead and get into my presentation, The Fathers of the Modern Race Paradigm, Part 6. And the three gentlemen on the screen, if you're new to the classes, that's Francis Benaire, Carlos Linnaeus, and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. And so today's discussion is the United States Race and Ethnic Standards for Federal Statistics and Administrative Reporting. We're going to analyze in the context of human rights. We'll also go over the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15, Section 1. Everyone has a right to a nationality. We'll discuss the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of a Child, Principle 3. Every child shall have the right to a name and nationality. And we'll finish with the UNESCO 1979 International Year of the Child. And so nationality is a human rights subject.
Yeah.
And so nationality and human rights violations at work when you're dealing with the work environment. And so nationality shouldn't be a factor in how someone is treated at work. Human rights violations like discrimination or unfair treatment based on nationality are unacceptable and should be reported and addressed through appropriate channels such as HR or legal authorities. So I want to give y'all 10 examples of human rights violations that we deal with on a daily basis at our work environment that we may not know are human rights violations, but these are human rights violations. And so discrimination based on race, and again, race, as I explained in part 1, part 5, race was a concept that was designed by Francis Benaire. But discrimination based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or religion. Torture or cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. Okay, arbitrary arrest or detention without due process. Denial of the rights to a fair trial. Forced labor or slavery, and we're going to go into that furthermore in the presentation. Restriction on freedom of speech, expression, or assembly. Violations of the right to privacy, including surveillance without proper legal authorization. Denial of the rights to education and healthcare. Child labor or exploitation. Denial of the rights to freedom of movement or to seek asylum. And so, how do human rights violations work for a person individually? Human rights violations can have profound and wide-ranging impacts on individuals. They can undermine dignity. Violations can strip individuals of their dignity, self-worth, and autonomy, sense of autonomy. Physical and mental health effects, and we all deal with these issues when you're at work. The stress of, is the work good enough? You know you work, bust you behind, and you should be getting paid more, and you don't get paid the amount, and other people that can slack and they get all kind of praises and progress. I see it all the time at work. But It can cause mental health issues like anxiety, depression, or PTSD. These violations limit opportunities. Violations can restrict access to education, employment, or other opportunities, hindering personal and professional growth. You may apply for a job, and because you have locks in your hair, they don't want to hire you. Or you may apply for a job and, I mean, they'll just look at you based on appearance and won't give you the job. This happens all the time. But it creates a fear and insecurity. Living under the threat of rights violations can create a constant state of fear and insecurity, affecting overall well-being. And so, you know, people stress out trying to figure out how they're gonna pay their bills, how they're gonna pay rent, how they're gonna pay card notes, how they're gonna buy groceries. I mean, these are all violations that can cause mental health issues. It stifles expressions and participation that may silence individuals, preventing them from expressing themselves freely or participating in public life. And so, I mean, like, you may want to speak to a supervisor at the job. You may have an idea that can help someone, or you may want to talk about a situation that's going on with another coworker that may be doing something they're not supposed to, but they have favoritism. And so you don't want to express yourself. So you become silent because you don't want to lose your job. I mean, there's various different aspects into this, but I'm gonna go further into it. But it damages relationships. If violations can strain relationships with others, including family, friends, and community members, as trust may be eroded or broken. It limits access to justice. Individuals may face obstacles in seeking justice for the violation they experience, whether due to a lack of legal resources, intimidation, or systemic barriers. And so again, yeah, like I was just saying, intimidation or systemic barriers. I mean, you could be the new person on the job, and one of the coworkers been there a few years, but they may brown nose the supervisors and they get to slack around, and you see their slack, but they're on you consistently about you staying up on your job. You know what I mean? And it creates a silence. It creates a intimidation or it obstacles on seeking justice. Perpetuate inequality. Human rights violations often disproportionately affect marginalized or vulnerable groups, perpetuating cycles of inequity and exclusion. Overall, human rights violations can profoundly impact an individual's life, undermining their well-being, freedom, and ability to live with dignity. So how do human rights violations work for a group of people? The first one was individually, and this is for a group of people, how it affects us as a whole. Human rights violations against a group of people can have a widespread of systemic effects impacting various aspects of their lives collectively. It creates an erosion of trust. Violations can erode trust in institutions and authorities, leading to a breakdown in social cohesion and solidarity within the groups. It creates cycles of injustice. Systematic violations can perpetuate cycles of injustice and marginalization, trapping the group in a cycle of poverty, discrimination, and oppression. And this is how it affects us all as a community, as a people. Impaired development. Human rights violations can impede the development and progress of communities and societies by limiting access to education, healthcare, and other essential services. Social fragmentation. Violations can create division within societies, fostering resentment and animosity and conflict between different groups. A loss of cultural identity. Violations that target cultural or religious practices can threaten the cultural identity and heritage of the group, leading to a loss of traditions and values. Forced displacement. Human rights violations such as persecution, violence, or discrimination can force members of the group to flee their homes, leading to displacement, refugees crises, humanitarian emergencies. And so I could speak on the massacre. When they were bombed here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a lot of people were forced to leave their homes, leave their locations, forced displacement. And so this is how it affected them as a whole. It was a human rights violation. Collective trauma. Continuous violations can result in collective trauma for the group, causing long-lasting psychological, emotional, and social harm. And so I can see the cause and effect of that here still in Tulsa, Oklahoma from the massacre. Resistance and advocacy. Despite the challenges, human rights violations can galvanize collective resistance and advocacy efforts within the group, leading to solidarity and mobilization for change. Overall, human rights violations against a group can have a profound and lasting effect on its members, shaping their collective identity, opportunities, and experiences within a society. Addressing these violations require concerted efforts to promote justice, equality, and respect for human rights for all. So, as we said in the last few classes, the basic tools for manipulation of reality is the manipulation of words. If you control the meaning of words, you control the people who must use them. Philip K. Dick. Or as I say, those who control the language control those who must use it. And so we're going to go into the United States Race and Ethnic Standards of Federal Statistics and Administrative Reporting, the statistical policy number 15, analyzed in the context of human rights. Statistical policy number 15 establishes the standards for collecting and reporting data on race and ethnicity in the United States, analyzing it from a human rights perspective involving several keys. Rights to self-identification. Individuals have the right to self-identify their race and ethnicity, which may not always align with the predefined categories. Analyzing SPM 15 involves assessing whether it respects and accommodates diverse self-identification. Representation. Accurate data on race and ethnicity is crucial for addressing disparities and ensuring equitable representation in policymaking, resource allocations, and social programming or programs. Analyzing SPM 15 involves examining how well it captures the nuance of racial and ethnic diversity to inform decision-making. Equitable treatment. Human rights principles dictate that all individuals should be treated equally and fairly regardless of race and ethnicity. Analyzing SPM 15 involves evaluating whether the data collected under these standards help identify and address systematic inequalities and discrimination. Intersectionality. Human rights analysts often consider intersecting identities such as race, ethnicity, gender, and socioeconomic status. Analyzing SPM 15 involves understanding how it accounts for the complexity of individuals' experiences at the intersection of multiple identities. 5, the impact on policies and practice. Finally, analyzing SPM 15 involves assessing its impact on policies and practices that affect marginalized communities. This includes evaluating whether the data collected under these standards lead to meaningful interventions to promote human rights and social justice. In essence, analyzing SPM 15 in the context of human rights involves examining its implications for the rights of individuals to self-identify, be accurately represented, and receive equitable treatment, while also considering intersecting identities and the broader impact on policies and practices. And so the SPM 15, it's kind of like the US Census. They use it to collect the data of the race, or so-called races of the people. And again, race was a concept created by Francis Bernier, Carlos Linnaeus, and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. But the United Nations Universal Declaration on the Human Rights, Article 15, Section 1, everyone has a right to a nationality, December 10th, 1948. And so we're going to dig into what that means, and we're going to analyze it. Article 15, Section 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights indeed asserts that everyone has a right to a nationality. This means that no one should arbitrarily be deprived of their nationality, and states should ensure that everyone has a right to acquire a nationality. And so what does that mean? The right to a nationality means that every person has the right to belong to a particular country and to be recognized as a citizen of that country. It implies that individuals should not be left stateless or without citizenship, and they should be able to enjoy the rights and protection that comes with nationality, such as the right to vote, access to education, and health care. And so I'm gonna ask just anybody, are Black and white nationalities?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you. So it says here, nationality is not determined by race or skin color. And so what I was just reading, SPM 15, if it's determined by race, then nationality is not determined by race or skin color, then the SPM 15 is a human rights violation. Nationality is not determined by race or skin color. Nationality refers to the legal relationship between an individual and a sovereign state. So the Black's Law Dictionary defines nationality as a quality of character that arises from a person belonging to a nation or state. Nationality determines a person's political status, especially with reference to allegiance. Nationality can arise by birth or by naturalization, but not by naturalization. That's just what's in the book. That's its modern sense. But nationality arises by your birth. Black's Law Dictionary also defines a nation as a large group of people having a common origin, language, tradition, and usage constitutes a political entity. The Black's Law Dictionary also defines a citizen as a member of a free city or jural society. Citizens have all the rights and privileges granted by their constitution and government and are subjects to the corresponding duties. And so our nationality, more is not in the Constitution. We have our own Constitution. But here are 20 nations and their corresponding nationalities. So I'm gonna give you 20 examples of nations and nationalities. Morocco, Moroccan Moor, Canada, Canadian, Mexico, Mexican, Brazil or Brazilians, Asia, Asian, France, French, Germany, German, Italy, Italian, Spain, Spanish, Russia, Russian, China, Chinese, Japan, Japanese, India, Indian. And so there also number 13, India or Indians is another misnomer here that we use. A lot of our people like to use, saying that we're the indigenous Indians or we're the indigenous. Yeah, we'll say Indians, and Indians are from India. Australia, Australian, Kenya, Kenyan, Nigeria, Nigeria, Egypt, and so forth. And so the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of a Child was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on November 20th, 1959. And Principle 3 of the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of a Child states, every child shall be entitled from birth to a name and nationality. This principle emphasizes the importance of providing children with legal identity and recognition within a nation, which is essential for accessing rights and services and for establishing a sense of belonging and identity. And so this is why it's important that our children know their nationality. Their children know what nation they belong to. They have a sense of their rights that belong to them. They have a sense of belonging and an identity. Principle 3 of the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of a Child emphasizes several critical aspects related to a child's legal identity. And so start with the birth registration. It stresses the importance of registering every child's birth properly after they are born. Birth registration is the first step in establishing a child's legal identity. It provides official recognition of the child's existence and serves as the foundation for accessing rights and services throughout their life. It gives them a name. Every child has a right to be given a name. A name is more than just a label. It is an essential part of a child's identity. It allows them to be recognized as individuals and to be acknowledged within their family, community, and society. And so just an example, I call my daughter Abayami. Abayami in Yoruba means she brings peace. And so she knows her title and what her purpose is, and she knows that it means she brings peace. She knows that she grows up, she has a job. and it's to bring peace into the world. But number 3, nationality. This principle underscores the rights of every child to have a nationality, which refers to the legal bond between an individual and a state. Nationality confers certain rights and responsibilities, including access to education, healthcare, and social services, and legal protection. It also establishes a child's affiliation with a particular country, contributing to their sense of belonging and identity. And so we want to talk about ensuring that every child is provided with the name and nationality from birth is crucial for several reasons. They have access to rights and services. Legal identity, including a birth certificate and nationality, is often required to access essential services such as education, healthcare, and social welfare programs. Without these documents, children may suffer. Without these documents, children may face barriers to accessing their rights and may be excluded from vital services. Protection against exploitation and trafficking. A lack of legal identity makes children more vulnerable to exploitation, trafficking, and other forms of abuse. Without official recognition, they may be more easily manipulated and deprived of their rights. And we see this in the school systems, and we see us as being adults. We've been deprived of our rights. We don't know our rights. There's a lot of things we don't know that we haven't been taught, because as children, we weren't taught our nationality. Prevention of statelessness. Nationality ensures that children have a legal connection to a specific country, preventing statelessness. Statelessness can leave children without access to basic rights, such as education and healthcare, and can limit their opportunities for a secure and fulfilling life. Sense of belonging and identity. Having a recognized name and nationality is essential for children's development of a sense of belonging and identity. It connects them to their families, community, and nation, contributing to their emotional well-being and social integration. So overall, Principle 3 on the rights of a child underscores the importance of recognizing and protecting children's legal identity from birth, ensuring that they are entitled to the rights, protection, and opportunities they deserve as members of society.
Hold on. We have some. You got to mute somebody's mic. What is the source points? Did you give the source?
Yes, Francis Bernard, Carlos Linnaeus, Johann Friedrich Mumbach.
No, the source of those points of nationality. What's the reference? What's the source?
Oh, Black's Law Dictionary.
All right,
4th edition.
no, those 10 points.
Oh, that was I pulled that up off from a different website. I'll put the website in the comments.
All right, you got to put the source. All right, then I'm telling you why the source is important.
Yeah, I put those in the comments.
Yeah, put those in the comment now while speaking. All right, King will be heading, Brother King El Bay will be heading the Moorish Investigative Research Committee. He spoke on that at the Moorish Political Unity Conference this past Saturday. Now, that's why it's important to put the source. That outlines what nationality, the purpose of nationality, the function of nationality. Now your question is raised, well, what's the function of race? If this is the function of nationality, what is the function of race? See where we're going with this?
Mm-hmm.
If this is the function of nationality, is this what nationality does for us? Well, what's the purpose of race? I want you to just go back to those points. I'm not going to read them. I want to just show those points. All right. You're going too fast. Not all. I mean, those points. Right here.
Okay,
Right here. what does that mean? So if you in looking at this, analyzing this, the right of nationality means, well, what does race mean? I just want to, what's the purpose of race? Why is race used? Is this what, if nationality serves this purpose, why is race used in the first place? See where we go with this? I don't want us to race past this point. This is part of the Moorish Imperial and Moorish Investigative Research Committee. So I want y'all to analyze this and analyze the purpose of the Moorish Investigative Research Committee and see the value of this research. We're not just, Okono's not just doing this to be doing this, for feel good information. So I want us to analyze this research, this presentation, in the context of the Moorish Investigative Research Committee. How can we use this information? How can we use this information to address the issue of race being used? Because this is what the United States would say. United States officials that deal with the race policy, and Okono has read some of the policy. Well, this is the purpose of race. What they have listed, what is listed here, United States officials that deal with race policy will say, will indicate what is the meaning for that of nationality. They would direct that to race. See how we got them? See how we got them? You see how it's important to use human rights. Nationality is a human rights subject. You see how Okono is using to analyze nationality and race. So if you just are placed in that constructive box of race, and if you don't have nationality as a focal point, nationality is our focal point. Okono, I want you to read some of the policies for race. Read some of the policies for race. I want you to listen. The Race and Ethnic Standards for Federal Statistics and Administrative Reporting. Read some of the purpose of that. Go back. We got to slow this down.
Okay, starting with it. Okay, so statistical policy number 15. So basically, number 1, a right to self-identification. But it says you have the right to self-identify their race and ethnicity. It doesn't say nationality. And so again, as Brother Abdullah is saying, why does it say race? Why doesn't it say nationality?
All right, so
mature.
What is the benefits? Like, what do United States officials who push the race policy, what do they say the benefits are for race? What is the benefit? What are the benefits of the Race and Ethnic Standards for Federal Statistics and Administrative Reporting? What is the reported benefits? What does the policy read about the reported benefits? That's what we want to highlight that. What does the policy read about the reported benefits? Healthcare. All right, so we want to so the benefits that are listed is for this race paradigm. You want to, let's want to read that. We want to also, I'm going to address self-identification a little later. Go to the next one, go to the next screen. All right, representation. Accurate data on race and ethnicity is crucial for addressing disparities and ensuring equitable representation and policymaking. All right, resource allocation and social programs. Well, nationality doesn't provide that. Nationality doesn't provide resource allocation and social programs. Let's go to the next one. Equitable treatment. Nationality doesn't provide that. Nationality doesn't afford one. Equitable treatment. Human rights principles dictate that all individuals should be treated equally and fairly, or nationality doesn't afford that.
Right.
See how you see what I'm doing? So we're raising, nationality doesn't afford that. Nationality doesn't afford that. Next one. And intersectionality. Human rights analysts often consider intersecting identities such as race, ethnicity, gender, and socioeconomic status. All right, so it involves understanding how it accounts for the complexity of individual experience at the intersections of multiple identities. How I'm analyzing this, follow me, y'all. I'm keeping the Moorish research and what's called research committee in mind. How can we use this to structure a case? The Moorish Investigative and Research Committee. How can we use this to structure a case? What can we pull out? What questions can we raise? Because the committee's been formed already. So I've already talked to the king, and he wants me to reach out to y'all, those who will be part of the committee, to see what day, Saturday or Sunday. It's gonna be Saturday or Sunday. I mean, what time we're gonna be starting this. So since that's the case, I'm directing this to this because this is gonna be part of the research. This research is gonna be used as part of the case. So this is a purpose. This is done with a purpose. See, when I'm doing it because by putting forth, raising the point of the Moorish Investigative Research Committee, it now gives it more meaning. It makes what Okono's doing more powerful. All right, so let's go back to number one, Okono. Let's raise the right to self-identification. All right, let's address that. Self-identification. All right. When you're talking, let's start with names, clan names. Let's start with clan names, or they known as family names, clan names, last names, surnames. Let's start with that. That's not self-identification. That is passed down. Those are clan names. See where I'm going with that? That's not self-identification. You're born to a clan. And the name, that what they call last name, is a name that identifies your clan. You see where I'm going with this? That's not something you as an individual. You as an individual is not self-identifying. See, understand language? Hear me, please hear me, y'all, please. You see how I'm analyzing? All right, this is what I do, y'all. Just follow me. Just follow me how I do it. I see this term self-identifying, self-identification. I analyze it. Self-identification. Does one identify themselves as Chinese or Russian or German or French? Does one identify themselves as that? Does one identify themselves as a member of a clan or a guild. Those are guild. Those are like surnames. Last names are identified what? Identified guild names. They're guild or clan. But are you yourself identifying yourself as that? Or you're born into that?
Right, right.
So self-identification is a construction. That's a construction. No one identifies themselves as a member of a clan. You're born into a clan or to a guild. You're born. You don't identify yourself as more. You don't identify, no one identifies themselves as Chinese or Russian or Polish. No one does. You're born. See what they're doing? This self-identification. So that's another point that'll be brought out in the Moorish Investigative Research Committee, when we address the self-identification and when we analyze genealogy, names, and genealogy, heraldry, ancestry, lineage, descent, clan names, guild names. And you identify how one, all right, so Chinese, they all identify themselves, that's self-identifying. It's not self-identifying. That's passed down. That's inherited. So I wanted to slow this down to get some analysis going. Can we get some questions going here? Or discussions. Discussions. Any comments, criticism, questions? These are major points, y'all. These are major points that we have to address in the Moorish Investigative Research Committee. You see how this term self-identification is driving. That's a false narrative. That's construction. So it drives, so they're using that as a foundation point. It's colorable. So, but once we raise the point, on what basis are they going to challenge it? One identifies themselves as Chinese. Chinese don't identify, it's not self-identification for Chinese or Russians. That's a bloodline.
It's true.
Because the self-identification would imply that's arbitrary. That is, you're not born with it. Listen to you, hear me, y'all. Self-identification. You're not born it? You're not born with it? You're not born with it? You know what? I'm self-identifying myself as Chinese. Yeah. Here you go. I'm self-identifying myself as Chinese. I'm self-identifying myself as Russian. You see how ludicrous it sounds when it's breaking apart, when you tear it apart?
Yeah.
What happens is there's no analysis with it. Just people just, right to self-identification, individuals' right to individual self-identity, their race and ethnicity. And of course, our people who go to these schools, our people go, and Europeans too, they go to these schools, they're trained. They're trained. A right to self-identification. Individuals have the right to self-identify their race and ethnicity, which may always align with predefined categories. You see here, y'all? Yeah. So they're training. There's no analysis. They're not doing what I'm doing.
Can I
Please,
add
Amanda.
okay. I'm gonna cite a couple different cases in the city of New Orleans versus Dukes 1976 case. The Supreme Court held that classification by race, alienage, ancestry, or religion is inherently suspect. And also they also stated that it was stated in Massachusetts Board of Retirement versus Murgia, a 1976 case, which was quoting a San Antonio Independent School District versus Rodriguez 1973 case. So all of those are addressing the same subject. And they said a suspect class is one saddled with such disabilities or subjected to such a history of purposeful, unequal treatment, or relegated to such a position of political powerlessness as to command extraordinary protection from the majoritarian political process. And then if you look up the definition of suspect and the legal definition, Black's Law Dictionary, is to have a slight or even vague idea concerning and not necessarily involving knowledge or belief or likelihood. So it wouldn't stand to reason, I would argue, wouldn't stand to reason that an entire group of people would knowingly and willingly put themselves into a group that is saddled with such disabilities or subjected to such a history or purposeful unequal treatment or relegated to such a position of political powerlessness as to command extraordinary protection from the majoritarian political process. And they would just do all of that stuff for themselves.
You see where we see the purpose of this Moorish Investigative Research Committee. And Amanda's on it. Amanda's part of the committee. Okono. We have Stern. Shim and I are advisors. Quasi's part of it. We have here Brother Stone. Welcome, Brother Malalik. Malalik.
Thank you, brother. It's Malachi, brother. Thank you.
This is Brother Malik Stone, where I met him last night
Peace,
at
fam.
the neighborhood forum in New York. All right, I did that. I do on the Telegram group. I posted my presentation. Sister Luisa Flores recorded my presentation. It was like 3 minutes. All right, and I met this is Brother Malik Stone. Brother Malik Stone, introduce yourself. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, thank you, fam. I'm a retired NYPD detective, and I actually a human rights ambassador. I met the brother here, and I was very impressed with what he had to say, because it's something that is needed with the community, and we need to share knowledge around each other so we can better, deal with certain circumstances, especially today in the world that we live in.
Brother Malik Stone has invited me to speak at the UN summit. It's a summit, and on July 18th. It's July 18th to July 20th. I will be speaking. We're gonna set up where I can speak on July 18th, and then I have to speak at another event that Luisa Flores is part of on July 19th and 20th in New York. And then I have to head out to Detroit, July 21st, where I'll be for 5 days with Sister Mia Moore and her body politic.
Busy schedule.
Yeah.
That's good, though.
All
The
right,
work
so
you doing.
yes, you're doing the work, brother. Y'all doing the work. So I'll be reaching out to the members of the Investigative Research Committee. King wants me to reach out to the members to decide, so you can decide what day, Saturday or Sunday, and also what time would be good for y'all. All right, so I think I got about 15 on the list. I'll be sending that message out tomorrow. All right, continue, Okono.
Okay. Okay, right here. So let's go into the UNESCO 1979 International Year of the Child. The International Year of the Child in 1979, led by the UNESCO, aimed to promote awareness and action for the rights and well-being of children worldwide. It brought attention to issues such as education, healthcare, and protection for children. Nationality does that as well. Just throwing it out there. The International Year of the Child in 1979 was a global initiative led by UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. It was a year dedicated to raising awareness about the rights, needs, and well-being of children worldwide. The goal was to encourage governments, organizations, and individuals to take action to improve the lives of children. During the year, various events, campaigns, and initiatives were organized to highlight issues affecting children, such as access to education, healthcare, nutrition, and protection from abuse and exploitation. It also focused on promoting children's participation in decision-making processes and advocating for their rights. The International Year of the Child serves as a catalyst for many countries to adopt policies and programs aimed at improving child welfare. It helped raise public consciousness about the importance of investigating in children and ensuring their rights are respected and protected. Overall, it was a significant milestone in the global effort to prioritize the well-being of children. Current instructions on applicable for completion of the EEO-1 form explains the EEOC's race/ethnic designations. In this regards, a Jewish employee of Sephardic ancestry may appear to belong to more to the white category as a person whose origin is from among the original peoples of Europe, North Africa, or Middle East, as opposed to Hispanic, a person who is of Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Central, or Southern American, or other Spanish cultures, despite the employee's ancestral connection to Spain. And a Sephardic Jewish is a dark-skinned Jew. I want to look the images up. I'll show those a little further on. But the current
Sephardic
Jew. The current EEO-1 instructions further note that employees may require the race/ethnic information necessary for this report either by visual works or of the workforce or from post-employment records as to identify of employees. And so your employee has the right to self-identify you based on observation. Eliciting information on the race/ethnic identity of an employee by direct inquiry is not encouraged. As a general rule, an employer's perception of its employees control how they should be classified on the EEO-1 form. If a Jewish employee of Sephardic ancestry appears Hispanic, he or she may be classified as such. Conversely, if the employee appears white, the employee should be included in that category. Self-identification is the preferred method of identifying the race and ethnic information necessary for the EEO-1 report. Employers are strictly encouraged to rely on employees' self-identification to obtain this information. If self-identification is not feasible, post-employment records or observers' identification may be used to obtain this information. And so again, the basic tools for manipulation of the reality is the manipulation of the words. If you can control the meaning of the words, you can control the people who must use them. Philip K. Dick. Those who control the language control those who must use them. And so self-identity is a constructive birthright stealing paradigm, separating an individual from their nation identity or nationality as a nation of people. And so an example, Kono took it upon myself to identify as a Moor. That's self-identifying. I can't do that. I was born a Moor. It's part of my lineage, my ancestry, my pedigree, my family identity. So Akono is the individual entity, identity. But the Moor connects me to my nationality or my national identity. The Moor connects me to my lineage, my ancestry, my pedigree, my genealogy, my ancestry, etc. So is nationality self-identifying? Anybody want to answer that? Is nationality self-identifying?
Oh,
Thank you.
We also want to raise the point to Okono. All right, now the first name, but the last name, what they call last name, surname, or family name. All right. All right. So we have here, as Okono, that's individual, but the last name is not individual.
nope.
The last name is not individual because the
Belongs to-
last name. This is the last name denotes nationality,
Yep.
ancestry,
Yep.
clan
Bloodline.
name. The last thing, yeah, black last name. The last name denotes that. We gotta be clear. The last name denotes bloodline. You have clans.
Yep.
What's
Yep.
called
Yep.
Reagan. Reagan is an Irish clan that's been anglicized. Kennedy, that's Irish clan that's been anglicized. They anglicized a lot of the Irish clan names. Douglas, that's a Scottish clan. So then what they call last names, family names, or surnames denote nationality, ancestry, lineage, descent.
Yep.
So I want us to be, we have to
Right.
have this
Yeah.
knowledge. This is very important for us to have this knowledge. We've been raped. We've been stripped of this. So we're looking at heraldry, names, heraldry, and genealogy. Heraldry deals with coat of arms, family crest.
Yep.
We have to grow into this knowledge. So last names, so not, we be clear. So you have names, last names / family names / surnames. You have clan names. You have guild names, as in carpenter, as in smith. Smith means work. Smith means work.
Right.
You have those called guild names or occupational names. You have place names. Place names. Brock, the English name that was forced on my family. Brockington. Brock or brook or brookings is a stream of water. And ton, T-O-N, means a place, denotes place. You have 10, T-O-N, and another one language, D-O-D-O-N, the D and T transliterates. So you have that. So you have clan names. Come on, Joe. Clan names. You have occupational names or / guild names. You have place names. You have patronyms, father names, patronyms. You have son, John's son. John, the Europeans didn't have last names. So son of John, Robert, son of Robertson, son of Robert, Peter, son of Peter. You have Vaughn, V-O-N. You have O as in O'Neill, the O with the accent mark. That's a patronym, son of. That means son of. The O and then the accent mark in O'Neill means son of. You have Ben, B-E-N in Hebrew, Ibn in Arabic, son of. You have V-O-N, V-A-N, V-A-N, Danish, V-O-N, Dutch. Those are patronyms, son of. So these are, I'm giving you classifications. You have clan names. You have guild/occupational names. You have place names. You have patronyms. All right, those are the 4 categories. It denotes ancestry, lineage, descent. It's not self-identification. So we're looking at, so if we talk about nationality, we also talk about the last names. That's not self-identification. See this, all right, I'm able to analyze that word because of this knowledge base. But I feel great because I have people like y'all who are taking the information and running with it. I'm not speaking to the wall. I'm not speaking to the wall. I'm not speaking to the sky. I'm speaking to people who are serious that's going to run with this. I need y'all.
We need each other.
But I can't be speaking to the wall.
That's right.
I can't be the one that just knows this. Abdullah, you know this. That means jack crap if y'all don't know it. I'm not powerful without y'all. It means jack crap. Don't care what I know. It must be, I must pass it along and function in a political structure.
Right.
So I thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Because most leaders want to keep the knowledge to themselves so they can be the one on top.
Well, they're foolish.
That's true.
They're foolish and they don't love their people. They're foolish and they don't love their people. So they're willing to go to the grave. They're willing to go to the grave with their knowledge and keep our people under English, Spanish, French, Dutch, Portuguese colonization and conquest and subjugation. That's ego-driven. I yield.
Social engineering in Article 3, Section 2, race is placed under the self-identification construction, as Abdullah was saying earlier. It's constructed. And so race was developed by Francis Bernier and his Nouvelle Division de la Terre and continued with Carlos Linnaeus and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach and others, such as Melville Herskovitz, Alex Rodlika, Walter Plecker, Franz Boas, and many others. And so again, as we said earlier, race is not self-identifying. Nationality is a national identity of a person belonging to a nation protected by that nation's constitutions and treaties and not an individual identity. And so that was just all explained. Nationality is a national identity of a person belonging to a nation protected by that nation's constitution and treaties and not by individual entities, an individual identity. Self-identification is a fraudulent conveyance of language. The race and ethnic standards for federal statistics and administrative reporting is drafted by the Office of Management and Budget and legislators by the United States Congress. And so it was drafted by the United States United States Congress, but it's a fraudulent conveyance of language. It's a fraud. And so remember that this is a human rights violation we're talking about.
Question.
So, go ahead.
Question. First of all, what's going on, brother Kano? Man, it was a pleasure meeting up with you in Philly, man. Placing a face with a name and getting the pictures and all of that. But I got a question here, and I'm going to say this question. I'm going to throw myself on the sword. I understand it, overstand it, but I want to throw it out there. So How do we identify or understand that as those of us who are called colored, Black, or Negro, how do we understand that or even accept or even identify as a Moor? Understand that this is our birthright. Understand that this is our going off of nationality and understanding that, then how do we believe? I don't know the best way to state this, but how do we believe, or how do we make the statement that, okay, yeah, I'm a Moor, and Moor is my nationality? I'm saying, how do I accept, or how do I understand, or how do I even believe to even identify myself as a Moor?
I think that's another one of those collective, where we as a collective coming together gives us that acknowledgement of who we are, if I'm answering that correctly. I think, because
and maybe I didn't ask the question properly. Let's say, all right, my name is Stephen Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm Stephen Johnson, and I have my brother, Abdullah Bey, right? And I'm like, nah, or I'm Brockington. Let's say I'm John Brockington. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm Brockington. I got my family. I'm part of the Brockington family. I'm not no more. I'm from the South.
I was gonna say then you already lost then. But no, I mean, you gotta study more. I mean, because if your brother's Akuno Bay, then I would ask my brother, how did you become a Bay? How did you know that you were a Bay? I would want to study more as far as learning more about the information. What was it that made you know that, or what was it that made you believe that you are who you say you are? So I would just question. I mean, I would want to study more. I question more. I would question my brother. Have him teach me, have him show me, so that I can become who I need to be.
Okay. I'm gonna keep, when we have smaller or even larger circles, I'm gonna keep coming about that, because that's a major point there. What we're talking about now, the identity, you identify how you identify, and that was good that you put it out there. I identify as Akano, right? But and your nationality is Moor. Well, if I go ahead and say, that's your individual, but you took it upon yourself to, good case in point. Why did you take it upon yourself to identify yourself as a Moor?
Because I believe that's who I was based on the information that I've studied. And then it went from a belief to a knowing. As I studied more information, I became more aware. Just an example, I guess, kind of on subject without, but Akuno was a Yoruba title. And so I used to be with the Yoruba culture. And I know I'm not from Nigeria, so I had to study more, because I do have my tribal cards here in Oklahoma. So I had to study more into my ancestral background. And the more I started studying, the more information came into play. So I mean, as the prophet say, study.
Okay. You answered that question, and I don't know if I'm looking for something more, but I think you answered that question, and you made this very clear. This page, this slide right here, because we as Moors are always looking to identify. And I just want to throw this point out there, and then I'm going to yield the floor for the time being, is we want to identify So one of the biggest things that we do as Moors, classified as Negro, Black, or Colored, is we join because we want to be a part of something, and we want to say, this is who I am, because I really don't have my identity, and I really don't know who I am. Somewhere down the line, we get caught with this thing of, okay, I've got some knowledge, but I really don't know what I got. I'm at a Black college, or I'm in a Black, I'm in a Moorish. I'm just gonna say this. It's gonna sound ignorant for a minute, but bear with me. I'm at a Black college, or I'm in a Black group at a predominantly white university, and I get what I call consciousness or knowledge, and then I just go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna join a fraternity. Now I am a Kappa, or an Alpha, or a Sigma, or I'm a Mason. So I belong to something. So now I'm somebody. Whereas before, I didn't feel that right to belong. I didn't feel like I was associated with a tribe, if you will. Maybe not a nation, but a tribe. So I joined this organization, and now this gives me my right to belong. This gives me my identity. So that's what's happening.
Continue, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what's causing, or that's what a lot of us who identify as, and who consider ourselves consciously educated, we go ahead and join something because we're in different movements or different gatherings, and we're looking to join something, or we're looking to be a part of something. So by joining a fraternity or a lodge or something like that, now not only am I a part of something, but I have a nationality, if you will. Well, I won't say a nationality, but I have an identification. I identify as whatever my fraternity is, or I identify as whatever my sorority is, or I identify as whatever my organization is. Not taking a look at the fact that, wait a minute, me being here in Morocco, I'm here as a citizen, and this is my nationality. So just with that, not even a strong amount of study, just with that information, or what you have here on the page, that within itself, and then going into Johan and the different ones who have been, and Carl Linnaeus and all of that, going into, this nationality and things of that nature, coming up with color and race and all that other stuff. This is what is a strong point that can be brought home, that can give that person who's looking for that identification, that can give them that knowledge right there, just with a few slides or a few pieces of information. So I appreciate that. I respect that, and I enjoy exactly what it is that you're pointing out, because it's clear, and that drove the point home specifically. So again, I yield the floor.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all the information that y'all had to give. I'm still a student myself, just as everybody else in here, so I thank y'all.
And if I could just add quickly on top of that to button it up, that in that it's not just joining the group and belonging to the group, but now you're coming together and you're uniting politically, and you're able to start getting movement politically in that manner, as opposed to just joining a group and being in the same situation that people are in now.
Agreed.
Indeed. Okay, so the standards for maintaining, collecting, and presenting federal data on race and ethnicity. And so we'll start with the agency. the Executive Office of the President, Office of Management and Budget, or the OMB. Then we'll go into their actions. Reviewing and possible limited revisions of OMB Statistical Policy Directive on standards for maintaining, collecting, and presenting federal data on race and ethnicity. And so the summary. The standards for maintaining, collecting, and presenting federal data on race and ethnicity were last revisited in 1997. And so this documentation was last revised in 1997. Someone mind reading that for me?
In 1997, OMB published the recommendations of the Interagency Committee in its Notice of Decision. Interagency Committee statistical analysis and public comment. The standard was revised in several ways. It required separate measures of race and ethnicity, with the Hispanic or Latino ethnicity presented first. Respondents were offered the option of selecting one or more racial designations with the use of the instructions mark one or more and select one or more. African American was added to the category of Black. Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander was created as a separate category from Asian or Pacific Islander. In 2014, OMB formed an interagency working group for research on race and ethnicity to exchange research findings, identify implementation issues, and collaborate on shared research agenda to improve federal data on race and ethnicity. Through its systematic review of the implementation of the 1997 revision and stakeholder feedback, the working group identified 4 particular areas where further revision to the standard might improve the quality of race and ethnicity information collected and presented by federal agencies. Specifically, these 4 areas include: 1, the use of separate questions versus a combined question to measure race and ethnicity and question phrasing. 2, the classification of a Middle Eastern and North African group and distinct reporting category. 3, the description of the intended use of minimum reporting categories. And 4, the salience of terminology used for race and ethnicity classifications and other language in the standard.
Thank you, Ms. Amanda. And so as I've read in here, and I'll go over it again, and 2, the classifications of Middle Eastern and North African groups and distinct reporting categories. And so you'll see where they, Middle Easterns or North African groups check the marks that says white in the box. They don't check Black or African American. They check the box that says white. For a growing segment of respondents, this situation arises because of the perpetual complexity that is rooted in the standards of definitional distinction of race from ethnicity. Middle Eastern or North African, according to the current standards, the aggregated reporting category of white race includes people living or people having origins in any of the original people of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. And so people of Europe, Middle Eastern, and North Africa all check the white box. For example, the standards currently designated Black or African American as the principal minority race. And according to the Black's Law Dictionary, the definition of minority is the state or condition of a minor, infancy, the smaller number of votes, a deliberative assembly opposed to majority. And so minority is not numbers as people think, as we think, oh, we're the lesser people. It's saying that you have the mind of a minor, you have the state of condition of a minor of infancy in law, that you don't know, that we don't know what's going on. Again, the basic tools for manipulating the reality is the manipulating of words. If you control the meaning of words, you can control the people who must use them. Philip K. Dick. And so, again, going back to the workforce, may an employer override an individual's self-identification of race, gender, or ethnicity based on an employer's visual observation? No. The policy is that difference should be given to an individual's self-identification, and it should not be questioned or overridden by an employer based on employer's visual observation. And so they're not supposed to, but they do it. They're allowed to. And so the question becomes, why is race the real world? Why not nationality? Why is nationality not the real world? Why is race the real world? What we're going to talk about, as we talked about, Francis Bernier, Carlos Linnaeus, and Systeme Naturae 10th edition, Johann Friedrich Blumenbach's, and then the white and black and white race categories, United States race policies. And so the form you see in the middle is a copy of the Equal Employment Opportunity, or the EEO-1 Employee Self-Identification Form. And so, as I said, these are violations of human rights regarding the rights of a nationality. Black denies us the right to be recognized of our consanguinity, our genealogy, our ancestry, which ties us to our pre-existing land right claims, pre-existing Moorish sovereignty, pre-existing Moorish government, and statehood. It strips us from our pre-existing recognition of the nation of families, or family of nations. It strips us from pre-existing cultural festivities or festivals, philosophies, holidays, celebrations. As said earlier, our names, headdresses, and our clothes. So it strips us from our identity, our culture, and who we are. The modern constructive for the words race and color are used in the United States policies and is connected to Francis Bernier and his Nouvelle Division de la Terre, Carlos Linnaeus, Systeme Naturae, and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach on the natural varieties of mankind. And so this was implemented from the 1700s, and it still applies today in 2024. The United States, it says, go review the first 5 presentations. I'll go back to this. That must be something I put on there. Anyway, the United States race policies and the use of the word race and color in the policies. And so what happens if you don't fill out the ethnicity form? If you ever joined a large organization in the U.S., you fill out the ethnicity form. Here's a typical one. This is what the typical one looks like. And so the voluntary self-identification form, it'll have the please check one of the boxes: American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Black or African American, Hispanic or Latino, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, white, or 2 or more races. And none of these are nationalities. So again, these are all misnomers. The employer is subject to certain governmental record keeping and reporting requirements for the administration of civil rights laws and regulations. In order to comply with these laws, the employer invites employees to voluntarily
let's go back for, we have a correction here that needs to be made. A Native Hawaiian is a nationality. So there's only one nationality that appears on this, Native Hawaiian.
Okay, you're right. Correct, you're right.
All right, so it's only, yeah.
You're right, yeah. Okay, yeah. Hawaiian, duh. Hawaiian, duh. That was me. Okay. In order to comply with these laws, the employer invites employees to voluntarily self-identify their race or ethnicity. Submission on this information is voluntary, and refusal to provide it will not subject you to any adverse treatment. The information obtained will be kept confidential and may only be used in accordance with the provision of applicable laws, executive orders, and regulations, including those that require the information to be summarized and reported to the federal government for civil rights enforcement. When reported, data will not identify any specific individuals, but one thing is clear: this is voluntarily, but some places add some things like this. If you choose not to self-identify, your gender and ethnicity will be recorded by a representative based on visual observation. So again, if you choose not to check the box, your employer has the right to check the box for you based on visual observation. And so going back to those Jews, what was the name of those Jews?
A human rights violation, subjugating you under a name that steals your rights.
Mm-hmm. And so,
But
like, yeah, example, I was gonna say the Sephardic, is that how you pronounce them? Sephardic,
Sephardic.
the Sephardic Jews, with them being of darker copper complexion, based on the employer's observation, they could just check the box, say, oh, they're black, they're Negro, African American. And then right there, their human rights are being violated. So what's going on here? The Civil Rights Act passed in 1964 and amended by the Equal Employment Opportunity Act in 1973. Title VI of this created the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and gave them the power to issue regulations. The current regulations are found in Title 29, number 4, chapter, what was it, 16? 16, 14? 14. Chapter 14, part 1602 of the Federal Code of Regulations. These state, before September 30th, each employer with more than 100 employees must file an EEO-1 form. It's illegal for the employers to make false statements, and this is a serious crime, which they do it, so they're committing crimes on a daily basis. Employers can get the information required on the form by visual surveys or by maintaining records. And so again, they can judge you just based on visual survey, visual observation, or by maintaining records, whatever you checked in the box in your previous pass. So what's on the EEO-1 form? Employers must classify each person by sex, job category, and race/ethnicity. The options for sex are male or female. The options for job category are executive, mid-level manager, professional, technician, sales worker, administrative support, craft worker, operative, laborer, or service worker. The option for race/ethnicity are Hispanic/Latino, white, black, Pacific Islander, Asian, American Indian, or 2 or more races. The employer should list the number of people in each sex plus job category plus race/ethnicity bucket and report the total numbers. So they have to jot down how many so-called black employees they have, how many so-called Latino, et cetera, et cetera. They have to write down the sex and the number in this race bucket category. Some places do explain what happens if you do not disclose. If you get a job that is FDIC, their form says, in the instance of missing information, your employing agency will attempt to identify your race and ethnicity by visual observation. How many places explain this? Have your employers ever explained this to you? I've never heard this from an employer.
Nope. But I can tell you this though, that if they do observe you and state your nationality or state whatever it is, that's discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they say that, they may interpret something that you do, and then that becomes discriminatory, or they may just say, hey, well, this is based off of what you look like. I'm gonna say you are a male, you could be a female. Mm-hmm. Or I'm gonna say that you're a female and you're a male. Or if you're using pronouns, or I mean, they've mixed up, they've added this new stuff in there now, but I'm saying that if they say that, like you were talking about the Jews, mm-hmm. If you say that this group of Jews are black or African American because we see the dark complexion, maybe let's say we see kinky hair or whatever the case may be, then that's grounds for discrimination, and that's discriminatory right there.
Indeed, Islam. Yeah. Somebody else want to ask something?
Let me just one moment here. Al-Kanan.
Yeah.
Let's look at what's written here. This is what's written. I hear what you're saying. I
mean, that was we just took a test on that through CP at Chicago Public Schools last month, and we had to pass with at least 95%. that there was the civil rights. It was talking about civil rights and discrimination. So I was just putting that in there. But I'm with you.
I hear what you're saying. I hear that. I hear. All right. So that all right. Let's analyze this, y'all. I got my analysis cap on. I listen to what he's saying.
Right.
I listen to what he's saying. I hear what he's saying now. I want and also look at what's here. Look at what's here. Read this again, Okono. Listen to. I have what he said in your mind. Had what we just had to finish a practice. All right. Had what he said. Put that in mind. I want you to read this again, Okono. Some places, please read this again.
Some places do explain what happens if you do not disclose. If you get a job at the FDIC,
Stop there, Kono. This form is from where? Put the source. Give the source first before you read it. Give the source. What's the source?
The FDIC.
This form
This
form that you're reading.
Yeah, the
what
EEOC,
is this form?
The Equal Employment Opportunity.
All right. So go ahead, continue.
In the instance of missing information, your employing agency will attempt to identify your race and ethnicity by visual observation.
Stop there. Now I want y'all to take that and then analyze what Elkanah said. So we have some conflicting. This is called conflicting information.
Yep.
Okono said one thing, but Okono said, not Okono. Elkanah said one thing, but this form reads something else. So this says visual observation. So Elkanah said that would be discriminatory. Elkanah said, but this is written though. This is written. So what's written here? So isn't this discriminatory right here? This is written.
In that documentation.
This contradicts what Elkanah said. I'm not saying what he's saying is not true, what he said. I'm saying what he says contradicts what's on his form.
Yeah. And EEOC is a government. This is a government agency. This is the government.
You see how we have to stop and slow this down and analyze?
But we also, I want to make sure we understand. See, when we dealing with these things, we got to look at where's the source. So he said under the Department of Education. Yep. This is the EEOC, right?
Yep.
The EEO, right?
But this policy, the policy, let's back up, King. The policy is the race and ethnic standards. That's all right. It's called the race and ethnic standards for federal and statistical reporting. That doesn't matter what agency it is.
It's all tied together.
Absolutely.
No, everything. This is what we got to understand too.
Go ahead.
Let me break this down to y'all. You have public and private organizations. Let's say if this was a private school, they wouldn't fall under the same scrutiny because they're under a different thing. Sometimes when we look at things, we assume an association with something without understanding or reading the contract. So I don't know what if he's, let's say that charter under that school. We don't know what charter and how that school was formed to make any clarifications based on specific things. We have to identify and eyeball certain things. In accordance to the equal opportunity, right? Under federal policy dealing with what? Federal agencies that's dealing with federal funding. These are things that's associated. Agencies under that branch, under that thumb, must follow these guidelines that's associated with the EEOC or the EEO under the Equal Employment Opportunity Act, right? So those entities are associated with that.
Let me say this, King. My daughter went to a private school at PK2, PK 3, PK4, first, second grade. That private school received federal funding. Once they received federal funding, I mean that my daughter, they had to serve my daughter did not eat jelly. They had to make the peanut butter. In fact, my daughter's mother and I there was a program at the school that day. And they had to serve my daughter. They could not serve my daughter a sandwich with just peanut butter. They had to serve her with peanut butter and jelly. They told us, we went to the office. My daughter's mother and I went to the office to talk to the principal. She told us, because it's federal funding, this is a private school now, because they received federal funding through the food, they had to serve my daughter the sandwich with peanut butter and jelly. So there are private schools that do get federal funding. They get federal funding. So they have to follow this if they get federal funding. If they don't, some don't. I'm saying some do not, but there's others that do.
But you also got to remember that the government also get in what they call they get into non-commercial contracts too. Everybody is not under the same scrutiny with the government. The government do all types of business. So I don't want us to stereotype every situation, because that's one of the problems. So like when I talk to people, I ask them, have you ever read the contract? No. So how do you understand what you're up against, or what you're entitled to, or what to understand? That's one of the #1 problems. We apply for these things and we don't ever look at the contract. We don't never associate what's in the contract to determine what's what. We'll look at a federal policy. The federal policy could be exempt under the contract. How would you know if you don't ever look at it?
I was just talking about federal funding. I know that there's institutions that are private, they do get federal, there are institutions that get federal funding. Churches and all that, they're institutions, there's quite a few institutions that are private that get federal funding. Once they receive federal funding, I'm talking about the federal funding now. Then they're subjected to this.
To this policy.
Also,
I was talking specifically about that. That's why I didn't want to go. I didn't want my point to get lost. I was specifically talking about institutions that are private that receive federal funding.
I also believe
this last point, Amanda, real quick. If a student who goes to a friend school, a student who goes to a friend school, that's William Penn, a friend school, and they get grants, federal funding, grants to go to that school, because they apply for grants to go to these certain private schools too. That's these federal grants. So that means federal money is going to that school, because meaning the school is receiving the money. The student don't receive the money. They send the money to the school. Yeah, I just wanted those points that I do know. Go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, a few slides up as well. I believe it said that this was applicable to businesses with more than 100 employees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right here.
So this is why I talk about the devil is in the detail. We must look at the details of everything. And we can't make an assumption under one contract to another because sometimes an exemption can happen based on the contract, what's being negotiated. So the EEO, the equal opportunity, right? That's a part of a federal agency that stipulate a subject or put you under make an institution subject to such policy if 9 times out of 10, like Abdullah said, is receiving certain types of federal funds, unless there is a provision for an exemption. You won't know until you actually look at something. But we must understand this information in totality and ensure that we're following all the bits of this principle. Because a lot of times what I found out, a lot of these institutions, what they will do is, you might have somebody come in under the Board of Education and set their own standard of policy and practice. And they're not following the proper standard until you start asking questions. And what I found out a lot of that stuff they're not following. So you could be taught something totally not applicable according to this new head person over the Board of Education, who's doing something according to how he might have been doing it in another state, in another county, or whatever he was doing it because it made his life easier than trying to come in and follow a protocol, particularly based on whatever. And they might have shown him something that's totally against, because this is federal. This is a federal law. And federal law preempts or trumps state law. It's called preemption of law. So this would preempt, or if the state has a law that conflicts with that, that's what they call a conflict of law under the substantive language, then you can say, well, hold up, the state says this and the federal government says this, there's a conflict. So now the government will have to look at that and determine there's a conflict, but 9 times out of 10, the federal should trump state law. And according to federal law, it should supersede any state statute, right? But you also got like state laws where certain states made marijuana illegal, but it was federally what? Not legal, right? So we have to look at that to determine certain things if there's a conflict in law, to ensure that when we make an assumption that we're within the proper guidelines of the information that's being identified in the contract or in the statute. I yield. That's all I had to say.
Anybody want to add anything else? Okay, so my question became, how many places explain this? And so to get a rough estimate, I searched for the EEO's disclosure form and filtered for forms that seem to actually be used. So then I checked to see if they explain what happens if you refuse to fill out the form. And so this is a list of places that do and do not let you know that they will, that do and do not disclose it on those forms. And so Alabama was a no, Colorado was a no, Maine was a no, in Hawaii most likely, so it was a yes. California Department of Human Resources was a yes. Delray System and Technology was a no. Salvation Army in North Carolina was a yes. Michigan Technical Institute University was a no. The City of New York was a no. University of Louisiana at Lafayette was a no. State of Oregon was a yes. University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill was a no. And Boston College was a no. So those are places that do and don't explain the race and ethnic standards and what will happen if you don't fill out the form, the self-identification part. And so legal to require race and ethnicity information of employees. It is legal for employers, specifically schools and government employees to require race and ethnicity to be reported. It was my understanding that providing such information was always voluntarily, but a friend who works for a high school just told me that he was required to provide the information, and that if he didn't self-report, the school was required to report it based on what the other employees thought. So my question was, is that legal? Is the principal or the teachers are allowed to check off what your child is based on what they think your child is? And so when did it become legal to require this information that was previously required to be voluntarily only? And so the Equal Employment Opportunity Standard Form 100, revised January 2006, Employer Information Report EEO-1 instruction booklet. So that's the source on race and ethnic standards. Self-identification is the preferred method of identifying the race and ethnic information necessary for the EEO-1 report. Employers are required to attempt to allow employees to self-identify to complete the EEO-1 report. If an employee declines to self-identify, employment records or observer identification may be used. And so again, same thing. I mean, they're allowed to just based on looks or just based on their own observation, say who they want you to be, who they think you are. And so, what is the EEO-1 report? It is a compliance survey required by the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The survey requires certain companies based on the number of employees and or federal contracts activities. So that goes into what both of y'all were saying, King and Amanda, based on the number and based on the contract. But to report employment data categorized by race, ethnicity, gender, or in job category. And so do all jobs or do all companies have to complete the EEO-1 report? No, but most small businesses do not have to complete the EEO-1 survey. However, according to EEOC criteria, companies with 100 or more employees have to complete this survey, as do enterprises of related entities with 100 or more employees combined between the entities. Additionally, companies with 50 or more employees have to file if they are a federal contractor. And so if you're a federal contractor with 50 or more employees, then you have to fill out this form. But if you're not contracting, you're not a federal contractor, then you don't. And so what happens if I choose not to complete the form? If you choose not to self-identify your gender or race ethnicity by completing the survey, your company is still required to include such information on your behalf. And so if you don't, they're still required. It's mandatory that they fill it out for you. In the EEO-1 report, your employer can use existing employment records or other permitted means, such as the methods outlined in the instruction booklet, to do so. And so again, just observation, they can say who you are. The required category selections are gender, male, female, non-binary, race, ethnic designation, Hispanic or Latino, a person of Cuban, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, South or Central American, or other Spanish cultural origin, regardless of race, white, not Hispanic or Latino, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or Africa. And this is on the document to say this as well. Black or African American, non-Hispanic or Latino by having origins in any other Black racial groups of Africa. Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, not Hispanic or Latino, a person having origins in any other people of Hawaiian, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific Islands. Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. American Indian or Alaskan Native, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North or South America, including Central America, and who maintain tribal affiliations or community attachment. 2 or more races. All persons who identify with more than one of the above 5 races. Again, this is Francis Benares, Carlos Linnaeus, Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Black, white, red, yellow, brown. So from 1684 to 2024, we're talking about how race and color became people. And so it says, I do not wish to disclose, which is another option on there on the applications or the contracts. If you choose not to disclose your race/ethnicity, your employer is still required to include such information about you in the EEO-1 reporting by using existing employment records or other permitted means to do so. And so I'm gonna say it again. The basic tools for manipulation of reality is the manipulation of words. If you control the meaning of the words, you can control the people who must use them. And so as you see in each category, they have a range of different places they're putting people on the map in each category. So they're displacing people as they're putting them in these categories. This was something that I got from Reddit, but I asked the question, does disclosing your race affect your job application? And so these were 4 different comments from 4 different individuals who commented on Reddit. And so Kitty Vincent said, I believe it does. I've had a hard time finding a job, and recently I started to refuse to disclose my race, and I got 5 calls within 24 hours for interviews. This only helps if you are Caucasian, I believe, though. That was one person's response. Adam Cook says, I'm white and I don't answer that question. I went a solid month without one single interview. On the next 3 applications I checked, prefer not to answer. I got all 3 interviews and 2 job offers. If you're a qualified minority, go ahead and check the box. Hiring non-minorities carries a stigma, not vice versa. And again, minority is not what people think it is. We just went over the meaning of minority a few slides ago. But I'm not gonna read all this. I'll just use myself as an example. When I go through Indeed or I put a job application in, I used to check the box that says Black or African American, but now I check the box that says American Indian. And the reason I do that is because I have my tribal card, and Oklahoma is a tribal state. So, but I got more calls and more job opportunities when I put American Indian on the contract versus when I was putting Black on the contract when I was checking that box. And so it does affect your job applications. Most people say it doesn't affect, but it does affect people's job applications. It affects your job as well. Shades of race, how phenotypes and observers' characteristics shape racial classifications. Although race-based discrimination and stereotyping can only occur if people place others into racial categories, our understanding of this process, particularly in contexts where observers categorize others based solely on appearance, is limited. Using a unique data set drawn by observers' assessments of photos posted by white, Blacks, Latinos, and multiracial online daters, this study examines how phenotypes and observers' characteristics influence racial categorizations. In cases of divergence between self-identities and others' classifications, I find that despite the growth in the multiracial population, observers tend to place individuals in monoracial categories, including Latino. Skin color is the primary marker used to categorize others by race, with light skin associated with whiteness, medium skin with Latino, and most strongly dark with Blackness. Among daters who self-identify as Black, along with other racial categories, those with dark skin are overwhelmingly placed solely into Black category. These findings hold across observers, but the proportion of photos placed into different racial categories differ by observers' gender and race. Thus, estimates of an inequality may vary depending on not only how race is assessed, but also on how classifiers are. I argue that patterns of racial categorizations reveal how the U.S. racial structure has moved beyond binary division into a system in which Latinos are seen as racial groups, as a racial group in between black and whites, and a dark-skinned rule defines blacks' racial options. This may be kind of small for y'all, so I'll read it, but it's the appendix of the Declaration of Human Rights. So it's just all 10 articles. It's the first 10 articles. I believe it's all of them. All 30. And just breaking down what each article is going over. And so Article 1 deals with the right of equality. Article 2 deals with freedom from discrimination. Article 3 deals with the rights of life, liberty, and personal securities. Article 4 deals with freedom from slavery. Article 5 deals with freedom from torture and degrading treatment. Article 6 deals with the rights to recognition as a person before the law. Article 7 deals with the rights to equality before the law. Article 8 deals with the right to remedy by competent tribunal. Article 9 deals with the freedom from arbitrary arrest and exile. Article 10 deals with the rights to a fair public hearing. Article 11 deals with the rights to be considered innocent until proven guilty. Article 12 deals with the freedom from interference with privacy, family, home, and correspondence. Article 13, the right to free movement in and out of the country. Article 14, right to asylum in other countries from persecution. Article 15, a right to a nationality and the freedom to change it, but we know you can't change your nationality. But Article 15 deals with the right of nationality. Article 16, the right of marriage and family. Article 17, the right to own property. Article 18, the freedom of belief and religion. Article 19, freedom of opinion and information. Article 20, a right of peaceful assembly and association. Article 21, the right to participate in government and in free elections. Article 22, right to Social Security. Article 23, rights to desirable work and to join trade unions. 24, right to rest and leisure. 25, right to adequate living standards. 26, you have a right to education. 27, right to participate in the cultural life and community. 28, right to social order that articulates this document. 29, community duties essential to free and fully development. And Article 30, freedom from state or personal interference in the above rights. And so, as I said earlier, nationality is a human rights subject. So yes, nationality is a human rights subject. The right to a nationality is recognized as a fundamental right outlined in various international treaties and conventions. It's crucial for ensuring individuals have access to other rights, such as the right to work, education, healthcare, and participation in political processes. And so I asked the question, well, why is nationality not used in the United States? And so the answer that I was given is that United States, the concept in the United States, the concept of nationality is often less emphasized compared to other countries. Instead, the focus is more on citizenship. Citizenship in the United States is primarily determined by birthrights, which is false, jus soli, or by acquiring citizenship through naturalization. Where am I at? While nationality and citizenship can be closely linked, nationality often refers to membership in a particular nation or ethnic group, whereas citizenship in the United States is more about legal status and rights within the country. So although nationality may not be a prominent as a concept in the US, citizenship still carries significant legal and social implications, which majority of that was false that they gave me back, but if you analyze and read everything that was just read, you will see why they don't use nationality in the United States.
I just want to say, when you was reading all of that, the rights, the universal rights, those are rights. They're not privileges. Rights is different from privileges, and we need to understand what's the right from a privilege and a benefit. We need to know rights versus those two aspects. So when you think about rights and you think about benefits and privileges can be taken, rights cannot. So once a right has been declared or a right is given, it's not subject to take away. It's out of their authority to do that.
I think this going to what you were saying, like, yeah, versus rights versus privileges, because again, your nationality deals with your rights, and then citizenship is just, I mean, you got privileges. That's why you need a license for everything. You need permission for everything. You need a license to fish. You need a license to travel. You need a license to carry. You need a license for everything. You need permission. You come with permission. It come with privileges. It don't come with your national your rights. But what is the difference between nationality and citizenship? Nationality and citizenship are related concepts, but have different meanings. Nationality typically refers to belonging to a particular nation or country by birth, descent, or naturalization, but we know that's false. It can also relate to membership in a particular ethnic or cultural group. Nationality can be tied to aspects such as language, culture, and heritage. In some contexts, nationality may also refer to a legal status within a country, whereas citizenship, on the other hand, is a legal status granted by a country. It's granted by a country to its residents, entitling them to certain rights or certain privileges, protection, and responsibilities. Citizenship also involves allegiance to that country. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, blah, blah, blah. And so that's an example. Participation in its political process and obedience to its laws. Citizenship can be acquired through birth, jus soli, or jus sanguinis, marriage, descent, or through a process of naturalization. While nationality and citizenship can overlap, especially in countries where they are used interchangeably, United States, they can also be distinct concepts depending on the legal framework and cultural context of a particular country. The question of reclaiming identity and history is deeply personal and complex, especially for indigenous people who have faced centuries of oppression, displacement, and cultural erasure. Many Moorish nations have been actively working to reclaim their identity, culture, and history as part of a broader movement for indigenous rights and sovereignty. Efforts to reclaim identity and history can take various forms, including cultural revitalization, initiatives, legal battles for land and resource rights, and advocacy for recognition of tribal sovereignty. For some Native American, more American communities, reclaiming their identity and history is essential for preventing their cultural heritage, healing historical traumas, and asserting their rights as sovereign nations. However, it is important to recognize that the process of reclaiming identity and history is ongoing and multi-faced, and it may look different. It may look different for each community. It requires respectful engagement with indigenous perspectives, acknowledgement of historical injustices, and support for indigenous-led efforts to reclaim revitalize their cultural and traditions. Messing up. What did I just push? I wasn't trying to push that. Okay, so what's the difference between race and nationality in law? According to the Black's Law Dictionary, what is the difference between race and nationality? Well, race refers to a categorization of people based on the physical or genetic traits. As Brother El Kanam was saying earlier, based on one's hair texture or one's, one's skin complexion. Let me see.
That's Colonnade, them. That's Francois Bonaire. That's Francois Bonaire. Carl Linnaeus and them,
Yeah,
Johann Friedrich Blumenbach,
Mm-hmm.
based on 4 constructs: facial feature, skin tone, all right, hair, brain size. That's Carl Linnaeus, Francois Bernard, living in our minds. 400,
What
what,
color are
300,
you? What color is he? Mm-hmm.
350 years later.
I also want you to think about this, Econo. That EEOC form, that's going to be in another exhibit that could be used, right? Because it not one, they talk about nationality.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't say nothing about nationality. So that's another form of subjugation when they put us into this race and ethnicity paradigm when they're trying to subjugate you from treaty. So that was a application. So I need you to check that off on the checkbox list as an exhibit that could be identified as another evidentiary evidence that could be fingerprinted directly to that administration. Who is the EEOC? Is that under what administration? Is what do they come out of? What do they come from under? What department of the branch of government?
Department of Labor, probably.
That's the executive branch.
I'm talking about what
It is
department?
Department of Labor, yeah.
The
Or
Department of Labor. Okay.
Department of Labor. I got you. Department of Labor.
So
Right.
they come out of the Department of Labor. So that associated with the executive branch in which we could say, hey, this is directly tied into their governmental policy as an exhibit that they're using these forms and they're classifying people by this instead of by nationality. And you have some people that are tied into treaties in which are now subjugated from such treaties. And now the United States is using these civil rights laws against these people who have treaty rights.
Yeah.
Now
That's
you
true.
see the power of this, the investigative research committee. You see the power of O'Connell's research.
Yeah. Very powerful. Yeah. And
And
we're investigating it, breaking it down, cracking this thing open. Yeah. This is studying law at its best.
Right.
and
So
it's
I'm
King,
sorry, man.
if you look in I put in the chat from some of the case law, but to also just add that it shows that it's intentional when the United States Supreme Court has already stated that these categories are categories that relegate people to positions of political powerlessness.
Yeah.
Like a statelessness.
Right.
Stateless.
So that's all. So what case, is there a case law associated with that? What was the case? I can't see it, Amanda.
Okay, I'll put the links, but I did put a paragraph and it's cited in there.
I'm looking at the chat. I just see R. Nathaniel Bedford Bay.
You may have come in later, so I'll repost it.
Yeah. So based upon that, she already got some case law. These are things that they already ruled in that. So guess what? This is a conflict. This is a conflict of law. They already got a judicial standing on political empowerment, and they're still using these same policies to put people and strip people into political empowerment based on employment strategy, when a person should have been able to bring his treaty rights into play. So I just want y'all to look at this and understand these are things that we need to be looking at and checking off. This is going to be evidence that we're going to be going over in the committee. These are the things that we're going to have to fine tune so that we can trace everything back. Who's the perpetrators, how everything went down. So I just want y'all to keep in mind, don't just look at a Kuno lesson that he's teaching. Those who are in the committee, let's start looking at and considering what is evidence.
Even when I look at even when I look at the legal definition of the word race, and my apologies for cutting you off, but just at the bottom part where it says discrimination based on race, if we know race is a misnomer, it's a made up construct, then I mean this right here, it's false within itself.
Right. Right.
In law, racial discrimination is illegal in many countries, but discrimination based on race, well, what is race?
What is race? Right. What is race?
You see what I'm saying?
Nation already.
It's the Supreme Court told you it's a suspect class, which is having a slight or even vague idea concerning or not necessarily involving knowledge, belief, or likelihood.
See?
Right. But even in, like I was telling y'all before, the SF-181 form, it says it on the form. If you look over that form, it says it's not based in any scientific studies. It's not, it don't have any significance based on science. This is something that they use. So we have to start, I want y'all who are part of this committee now, start, when you're doing research and you reading information, I need y'all to start considering what is evidence. When we go into these things, I need y'all to look at this and start saying, okay, this, let me keep this because this might be useful. We need to sort the decisis, where it come from, where's the policy, what department is still being enforced. And these are things that we can say, right? Cited with the case law that's already been adjudicated. This is stuff, this is what stare decisis. This is stare decisis. They already ruled on that. So this is already prominent in the judicial category of law in which specify such particular facts. But they're still using these practices to discriminate. Well, based on their own pious court, said already gave you something to chew on, and they're still doing it. Because ain't nobody making an uproar about it, right? Yeah. So now this is stuff that we need to collect, take to the UN, put everything and be able to argue and point out the framework and how they went about doing this. And get our reparations back for unjust enrichment.
Okay, so it says nationality relates to the legal relationship between an individual and a sovereign state, usually determined by birth, descent, or naturalization, which you know that part's false, but nationality confers to certain rights and responsibilities, such as the right to vote, work, and reside in the country, as well as access to social services and protection by the state. Nationality is primarily governed by the law of the country in question and may be separate from race or ethnicity. And so as we all are aware, nationality and race are two completely different things, have nothing to do with each other. One is a man-made construct, and one is you're naturally born, it's who you are by birthrights. Ties you with political connections, political protection to your land and your ancestry, and your genealogy, and your heraldry, and your pedigree, etc. So how do we fix these human rights violations? And so human rights violations is a complex challenge that requires a multi-faced approach. It involves international cooperation, like King was just saying. We go to international courts with this, United Nations. So encouraging nations to work together through organizations like the United Nations to address violations globally. So like these study classes that we're having, education, and part number 2, education and awareness, promoting awareness of human rights and their importance through education and public campaigns. Also, as the committee is going to be doing, number 3, legal framework, strengthening and enforcing the laws to protect human rights at both national and international levels. Number 4, accountability, holding individuals and governments accountable for their actions through mechanisms like international courts and tribunals. 5, empowerment, empowering vulnerable groups to advocate for their rights and providing them with resources and support. And so we're providing the resources and information and support within these groups and these lessons and this committee that that's coming along. Dialogue and diplomacy, engaging in diplomatic efforts and to negotiate with violators and find peaceful resolutions. Sanction and pressure, applying diplomatic and economic pressure on governments that violate human rights to encourage change, supporting civil societies, supporting the work of human rights organizations and activities who often play a critical role in exposing violations and advocating for change. And so these are just a few, and I mean, there's more things we got to do, but these are just a few of the things that we have to do in order to fix these violations. It is essential to address human rights violations comprehensively, considering the political, economic, social, and cultural factors at play in such situations. Addressing human rights violations is essential for several reasons. Inherent dignity. Human rights are based on the inherent dignity and worth of every individual. Failing to address violations undermine these fundamental principles. Protection of individuals. Human rights protection ensures that individuals are treated fairly and with respect, regardless of their background, belief, or identity. Social cohesion. Upholding human rights fosters social cohesion by promoting equality, justice, and inclusion, which are essential for stable and peaceful societies. Rule of law. Respect for human rights is closely linked to the rule of law. Upholding human rights standards strengthens legal framework and institutions, fostering trust and governance. Preventions of conflict. Addressing human rights violations can help prevent conflicts by addressing grievances and promoting reconciliation and understanding between different groups. Global stability. Human rights violations can have regional and global repercussions, leading to instability, refugee crisis, and humanitarian emergencies. Addressing violations contribute to global stability and security. Development. Human rights are closely tied to development outcomes. Ensuring access to education, healthcare, and basic freedom fosters human development and economic prosperities. Moral imperative. Beyond practical consideration, addressing human rights violations is a moral imperative. It reflects our shared commitment to respecting the dignity and rights of all individuals. This was something else I'm working on. I believe this is what me and you working on, King. This is for a whole nother presentation, but this is what me and you was working on.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for a whole nother presentation right here. So yeah, I believe that's it, family. And I want to say I thank y'all for giving me your time tonight. Do we have any questions? Anybody want to add anything? Anybody want to say anything?
Good job, brother.
Excellent.
I appreciate y'all.
Great
I
class.
appreciate y'all add-ons. I appreciate y'all helping. Amanda, I appreciate you a lot too with your research as well.
Also, who is on the committee tonight that's in this class?
Amanda, Quasi, Amanda, Kono. Who else is?
So everybody in the committee, I want y'all to start.
I'm gonna also designate Malachi, the one we spoke to. He's on now. King Malachi.
Okay.
Malachi is on the one we talked, the brother we spoke to today, that's connected with the UN.
Yes, brother.
All right.
So what I want.
Elkanan, you're probably too busy, Elkanan. Right. That's why I didn't. Yeah. So I got 4 right now. I have the whole list, but I'm talking about who's on now. Kenneth. Yeah, I see, what's the name? Israel was on earlier.
Okay.
So that's 6.
His phone, I don't know if there was, but
Yeah, he's been trying to get back on.
Sister Alexandra said that somebody does that in her classes, so I'm assuming it was somebody that she may have knew, but it was making everybody's mic go off, so I didn't know who it was.
I got you. All right.
So I just want everybody who attended this meeting tonight, when we attend the classes, I need y'all to pay attention to start thinking about what can be used as evidence. what is this? Did the in the framework in the class studies, did they articulate certain things that we can use? So I'm identifying that that equal opportunity form and is in the legislation that is used by the Department of Labor, that they're using this as a form of subjugation to classify people so that they can misrepresent somebody based on their and they're not identified by their own nationality. What if somebody refused to be subjugated to a race or ethnicity, and they'd rather be preferred by nationality?
The employers required to check it based on eyesight.
Right. So
that's crazy.
Right. What if I just said my nationality is this, that I don't fit into any of these other categories? Right. And you give them their nationality and they then put you into a racial category. Right. And they say you this. Based on what? What evidence? It's not based on any scientific evidence. So we got to look at this policy. That is a pure violation and subjugation. That's a human rights violation. And it can stem into other things, right? So we have to understand you have a right to a nationality. A right to a nationality.
Yeah.
So we have to look at that. So when they strip you from your nationality, right, they just destroyed your whole lineage, right? What they're saying, you came from outer space. Some Martians have dropped you off on the Earth. So these are things that we need to look at. This is an exhibit. This is stuff that we need to put into a profile and break this stuff down. Go over these words, look at everything, fine comb tooth this. Because when we go in front and talk to these people, we got to show that these people, we did our homework. We know what y'all up to. We know what you did. It ain't no questioning nothing. Right? Y'all got to repair us and make us whole. Give us our rights back according to treaty and nationality. So I'm so happy and thankful for you brothers and sisters who joined into this so we can all be made whole again, right? So that we can stop being subjugated to these civil rights laws and all of these other laws that don't make you back, give you back your human rights, make you back humane, right? So they put you in this political position where you don't have no authority, right? You have no power. And then they got all of these different things. Oh, vote for your president. And they know that that's nothing but a popular vote. That your president still has to, he's a part of this puppetry. So I need us, for us to do our homework. And I'm very thankful that brothers like you, Quasi, Amanda, Abdullah, and Sham, and all the other brothers like that's joining this. I want us to pay attention because the devil is always in the details. I'm gonna keep saying that. We must start reading. Reading is very fundamental. You can't go in there and talk about something that you haven't read.
Thanks.
I yield.
Oh, King, we didn't get to ask you. How was your experience with the conference? Also, you as well, Brother El Kanami. How was your experience at the conference?
Who wants to go first? I'll go first. It was eye opener. You know what I'm saying? I learned that this was the second conference. it was powerful though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there was a lot of kindred spirits, and just to see the community get together, I I enjoyed it overall. One thing that I think I would have changed or made different was when the speakers spoke or got up to speak or whatever have you. It seems like as the speakers started speaking, as we started to get down the line, people were leaving. So somehow or another, I don't know if that was a timing issue, or I don't know if that was just intentional or unintentional or whatever, but I would have wanted to have the speakers go through and speak with the full audience, there that we started with, or whatever the case it is. Outside of that, I mean, the food, I didn't eat the dinner, but the lunch was good. The constant watermelon and pineapple, you know what I'm saying, with a
Smoothies,
squeeze of lemon,
yeah.
you know. that was tight, and then
Yeah.
the agave, that's what kind of
Yeah.
made it like a lemonade, like you
Mhm.
bought that, from a store somewhere, and it was like, that was tight. Now that was pretty ingenious. So I would say overall it was good. My only thing is about the people, that we just kept on getting shaved off. But outside of that, that was my take.
Beautiful.
For myself, I enjoyed it. It shows that when we put our minds and we come together, we can do pretty much anything as a collective. So I spoke last because I had got sick. I want to say thanks to Brother Quasi, man. Brother Quasi brought me back. I'm gonna say this again, with his watermelon and
Pineapple.
oh man, it was good because I needed that H2O because I had ate something, and even after I had to leave, I went to go get some Tylenol, and I was starting to feel it, but it did, and I didn't know if I was gonna be able to get up on there and speak at all. But
Dang.
he brought me back. And I want to appreciate that for him coming together with that knowledge, because he probably, if it weren't for Quasi, I probably wouldn't have got up on stage if he didn't have that there.
Dang.
Because I was feeling that ill at one point, and I had a great experience. I thank Abdullah to making us a part to travel to Philadelphia. I'd never been to Philly. I've been to New York plenty of times. I've been to other places plenty of times, but never to Philadelphia. So that was the first time I've been. The experience was enriching. I met the brothers, Akuno, Quasi, Abdullah, everybody in person. And it was, now I have a personal connection and recollection I can identify. So I told the brothers I want to come, like Brother Kuno and Quasi. I told them I'm gonna be trying to link up with them and come to their states, and we do something in their states, because I want to start linking up doing some other business. But I want us to, to continue this drive. I keep trying to tell everybody, we don't have to do nothing else but keep on keeping on. Abdullah has done a lot of the work. He has done a lot of the research on the treaties. Then he brought people together with various experiences who have certain abilities. All we have to do is finish the work. That's all we got to do. The format is laid out. The Shell Malachi Bay plan is put together. All we got to do is finish the work. Just finish it. Let's finish what we start. That's all we got to do. Just finish this.
Sure.
Everything else will come together.
Wow.
Islam.
Islam. Brother Abdullah, you got anything you want to add?
It was wonderful to have met all of y'all in person. That's Kono and I'm to see El Kanan again. To meet King, I told King that I would give him a hug. I said when King and we were working on he was coming up, we were talking about the investigative research committee and when King was honing that, and I wanted him to do a presentation. King was like, oh, King was dropping. I said, oh man, King, when I see you, I'm gonna give you a hug, man. And what did I do, King? I can't give him a hug. Yeah, so that was wonderful to be able to do that.
And he showing up gave me a hug too.
Yep.
And with King, King, at least he didn't threaten you and say, when I see you, I'll give you a bear hug.
Yeah, to meet Quasi, didn't get a chance to connect with him when I was in Atlanta in September. So finally connect with him, Kono, to see Amanda again. I hadn't seen Amanda. Met Amanda when she came from Florida to Philadelphia to take my etymology class in the fall of September 2019. That's where she met. Tamara was there. Tamara, myself, and Shim. Shim was actually taught the first 2 weeks of my classes that semester. So that was great. Ronald Jones laid this poem down in spoken word. Who else is? So that it was wonderful. It was a wonderful time, a wonderful experience, and it's we and as King said, that to continue doing what we're doing because it's already. See, I said to King, Kono, Quasi, and also there's Pecola. I said that I wanted to put certain things in place before the conference. This is where the advanced study group, the general advanced study group, the investigative research committee. I wanted King to have certain objectives already written out. Even that the other advanced study group, the foreign relations, and of course advanced study group. So certain things I wanted to already have in place so that when we come back, we hit the ground running. We're not just starting. King is not just starting. He already had stuff written out that I already posting on the Telegram page. About 3 weeks ago. So we're not just starting, and I've already informed most of you that you'll be part of the investigative research committee. And this is why I directed that when Kono was making his presentation. Let's think about this. Let's think about, because this is not just some feel-good information. This information is going to be used, as evidence in the investigative research committee, along with other pieces of evidence. All right, so this is we're on our way. Sister Mia Moore, I'll be with them 5 days in July. I was in New York last night. This is where I met brother Malachi, Sir Malachi Stone. He's with the Chief Stone. I connected him with King this morning, and we were on the phone for about a good hour. So so Malachi will be joining us on the research committee. All right, so I'm done. Any other words?
Also, those on the committee tonight, start looking at the rules of evidence, federal rules of evidence. get familiar with that. Understand the language, understand the technical points. And then so that when we start this class and you start asking me questions, right? I can give you more technical key points on how to deal with evidentiary standards of practice. What is evidence? How they look at evidence? How to properly use an affidavit and associate it with the claim or the complaint. How to use the affidavit to support the complaint along with the exhibits based on your findings of facts, right? And look at the law, like we're going to be using case law as what? Memorandums that could be placed in that, and on an international level, it would turn into an exhibit. So I need y'all to, if y'all start, just brisk over that, start being familiar, looking at the rules of evidence. The reason why I'm starting you there is I need you to understand what evidence is when we're talking about investigations, right? I need y'all to understand. So this is the stuff that I want to highlight. So now when you start looking at other things, you will know how to put even small claims and stuff together eventually. And then we'll get into some of the procedural elements on the international level, and we'll start breaking that down, right? Rules of procedures, all of that stuff, code of conduct for judicial officers, listening, having a fair, impartial tribunal, all of these things to come into place. So, but I want to start with the evidentiary part first to get us familiar with that. Then we'll look at the the international rules, because they got one too. But we're gonna look at that to get us comfortable. Then we'll be able to go to the international level and start seeking. Abdullah, I haven't really did my research. I know they have international law, right? Like when I was really doing a lot of litigation, they had like federal pacers. Do they have like a federal, not a federal, international website that we can go through and look at a lot of case laws? Or do
yeah, I came across a couple of things, King. Let me go back into I came across, wow, I saw something that I posted on a Telegram page, I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I'll find it.
So
there is stuff. There's something, yes. The answer, yes.
So we have to, I'm pretty sure they got something. And I'm pretty sure we probably might have to pay. It might be a paid site or something.
Yeah, I think some of it paid. Yeah, we're gonna have to pay. Yeah, we're gonna have to. We'll find out what it is, and we'll take. Yeah, we'll have to. Yes.
So we're gonna have to
with dues or something.
Yeah,
yes.
we're gonna eventually start, as we go over these rules of evidence and stuff, we're gonna have to get that site and start combing through case law.
Yes.
Just combing through case law, studying the case laws, looking at what was already decided on the international level.
Yes.
Right? I'm just giving us, I'm not gonna overwhelm us with everything because there's a lot to digest. So I'm just giving us something to think about. Okay, family? I digress.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyone
Anyone else?
Islam, I thank y'all again. And we'll be seeing y'all again in March Monday, and in the next we'll see you guys all again soon.
Yeah, March Monday.
Yeah.
Next one up. Yeah.
Thanks. Peace, fam.
Right, peace.
Peace.
Peace, family.
Yeah.